tonight.
My face was on fire.
The teen girl lit on fire at Evan Hardy Collegiate shares her story for the first time. Premier Scott Moe and his cabinet face tough questions at the SARM convention. And how Saskatchewan's arts industry is struggling to recover 5 years after the start of the pandemic.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, March 12th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. The 15-year-old girl who was lit on fire at a Saskatoon high school last September is telling her story for the first time. The grade 10 student from Evan Hardy Collegiate says she will not let the attack define her. Dan Zakreski has her story and a warning. Some of the details are distressing.
Everything was covered in flames. My face was on fire.
The teenage girl was set on fire in a hallway in a Saskatoon high school. She's speaking for the first time, telling us what happened that day. We're not showing or naming her because she's a youth victim of crime. It was her second day of grade 10. She was just coming out of her classroom. Witnesses say a girl poured liquid onto her head and then lit her on fire.
I was on the ground rolling and trying to get the fire out. And I was screaming help me, oh my gosh.
40% of her body was burned. The fire fumes scorched her vocal cords. 6 months later, she still speaks in a whisper.
My voice just kept going quieter and quieter. I think while it was happening, I inhaled a lot of fumes, and it really scarred my vocal cords.
The kids were all heading for lunch at the time. They say it was mayhem. A fire alarm was blaring. They say a teacher tore off his own shirt and jumped onto the burning 15-year-old. She says she remembers the pain and then paramedics helping lift her onto a stretcher.
The fire was out and it hurt so much. I was on the gurney and I asked if my parents were coming because I just wanted to see them and I didn't want to die without seeing them. But I'm grateful that I'm still alive and I saw them walking into the school. And I just said, hi, Mom, hi, Dad. And then they wheeled me out.
That's amazing, baby. You're amazing. You're amazing, sweetie. You're so brave and strong.
The ambulance took the teen to the hospital and she was airlifted to the burn unit in Edmonton. A 14-year-old girl was arrested at the scene. She was charged with attempted murder, arson, and aggravated assault. She told police voices told her to do things. She's pleaded not guilty and she'll be back in court here in July. Today, the teen is slowly recovering at home, taking classes online, talking to her friends again, and reconnecting with her favorite hobby.
Since this has happened, I'm not really able to play as good as I used to be because my hands can't move as good and it gets really tiring to play.
What did you like to play?
Metallica.
Her parents know her physical and emotional recovery will take time.
It's very uncomfortable, but she powers through it, and burn victims have to go through that journey. If you don't go through the constant exercise and therapy, the healing makes it worse. Scars form and it makes it worse. So she's doing a tremendous job in trying to do the best she can under the circumstances.
A long journey, yes, but it comes with a soundtrack by Metallica, of course. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
And the victim says she had been threatened and harassed for months by the teen who allegedly set her on fire. And she says it was reported to both police and the school. The girl's parents also want to know why more wasn't done to prevent it. Dan Zakreski will bring us that part of the story on Thursday. Provincial ministers are in Saskatoon this week talking to members of the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities at its annual convention. Alexander Kwan reports.
Members of Saskatchewan's cabinet faced the bear pit at the SARM annual meeting Wednesday, and as usual, they heard a lot.
I know that the ground keeps shifting under your feet with the ridiculous mandates made by the federal government.
The organization's president admits it was a warm reception.
For the most part, I think we've got a cabinet and a premier and a government that's open to listening to us, and we have that great dialogue.
The urban-rural divide in Saskatchewan plays a role in that warm welcome, with the Saskatchewan Party forming government based off a strong performance in rural Saskatchewan during the 2024 provincial election. The party only claimed a single seat in the urban ridings. And while Mo's speech at SARM alluded to what the government will address in next week's provincial budget, such as access to primary care and healthcare wait times, many of Mo's comments focused on tariffs, not just from the United States, but also retaliatory tariffs from China.
Make no mistake, 100% tariff on Chinese canola and meal exports, alongside the challenge that we're seeing in the United States with the on and off again tariffs on various products, it will decimate the canola industry in Saskatchewan immediately in a matter of number of weeks, not months.
The Chinese canola tariffs are in response to Canada slapping a 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles. The Chinese tariffs produced a rare moment between Mo and official opposition leader Carla Beck.
This latest threat from China would be absolutely devastating. I don't know that there's any other word. There's agreement here.
Both politicians are now calling on Ottawa to meet with Chinese officials. They say Saskatchewan's agriculture-based economy is being punished for Canada's decision to protect Canadian and American auto production. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
And Saskatchewan steelworkers have sounded the alarm on tariffs being imposed on their industry. All steel and aluminum products imported from Canada into the U.S. are now hit with a 25% tariff. According to the United Steelworkers Union, about a third of steel produced at Evraz in Regina is shipped south. It says any further tariffs could result in layoffs.
We're talking about workers, and we're talking about families and communities, and right now everything is up in the air, and we don't know what the next move is. And I think it's important that we get together and we discuss it, all parties, all stakeholders. That includes finance, that includes business, that includes the unions.
The federal government has slapped a retaliatory tariff on another nearly $30 billion worth of American goods in response to the tariffs. The provincial government is activating its Provincial Emergency Operations Centre to deal with the toxic drug crisis in Saskatoon. The government says the PEOC will enhance coordination between government and ministries and organizations that respond to overdoses. An alert issued by the Ministry of Health says there have been 67 overdoses and 1 suspicious death in Saskatoon in the span of just 3 days this week. The ministry says it's possibly the result of a brownish-red substance that comes in chunks, which contains dangerous levels of fentanyl. It's been 5 years since the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic. But according to arts organizations in the province, it's taken a long time to recover. Liam O'Connor reports.
For the Saskatchewan Jazz Festival, everything has changed due to the pandemic. A new team, location, and business model.
It has taken a long time to come back. I would say we're just starting now, 5 years out, to see that comeback, to see the organizations grow.
The festival head says the slow recovery is due to the rising cost of living. She says people are stretched thin, choosing gas and groceries over live events.
I think we kind of had this idea that maybe people would rush back to live events, and that was not the case at all. And I think that had to do a lot with the economy that people came back into.
She says those struggles are evident when looking at the Jazz Fest's Free Canada Day show in 2023. It had record attendance with over 5,000 people, but it took until 2024 to sell out a ticketed event.
When, the average consumer wants to take in some music or pay for groceries, sometimes the groceries come in first place, as they should.
The community-owned and run Broadway Theatre in Saskatoon also says ticket sales are down. They've had to do more with less.
I think that it's certainly at a point now where we can't continue to keep kind of cutting the fat away. There's really not much left than just bones at this point.
Over in Regina, the Globe Theatre, like other places, staff changed during the pandemic. it was mostly older and experienced workers who left. But the artistic director says that meant an influx of new, younger workers.
All these young people had to step up into these positions that they, were probably 5-10 years away from stepping into, but they had to learn really, really fast.
Everyone agrees the past 5 years have been a tumultuous and unpredictable time for the live events industry in Saskatchewan. With the provincial budget coming this month, the head of the Broadway Theatre would like to see more arts funding. Liam O'Connor, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Well, our spring thaw revealing some interesting ice designs on waterways in the province, as well as some money for those brave enough to reach in. Stay with us. I'll have a look at your weather forecast, which includes some colder weather and, yes, some snow as well. Lots of it in some places when we come back. Stay with us. A Go Public investigation has found more Canadians are being targeted in a scam involving gift cards. Scammers drain the money before shoppers who pay for the card are able to use it. Idil Musa explains how thieves are doing it and how to avoid getting ripped off.
Joan Owens bought this $50 Lululemon gift card for her sister-in-law last October. But when it came time to use it, she says it was completely empty.
I was surprised. I said, the receipt is there. It says it's activated.
Owens' gift card, purchased at this Shoppers Drug Mart, was likely drained of funds by fraudsters. One way they do this is by stealing gift cards from a store, obtaining the account information on the back and resealing the cards in their original packaging before placing them back in the store for unsuspecting customers to purchase.
And once you activate it, they have the ability to go in and drain the funds from that card.
The $50 gift card.
Martin Paquette knows all about it. The $50 Sephora gift card he bought his daughter at Walmart also turned out to have no money on it when she went to use it.
My daughter was embarrassed, to say the least.
Gift card scams are also a widespread problem in the United States, where law enforcement officials have linked some of that activity to Chinese organized crime groups, who they say are also stealing from Canadians.
They're taking the money to then convert it into goods. Primarily, those goods are going to be high dollar, luxury items. Apple product in particular is highly sought after.
The RCMP says it's sharing information with local, national, and international law enforcement partners to combat fraud. Martin Paquette says he's learned his lesson.
If we ever buy gift cards again, we will definitely go to the store that is issuing the gift card.
Joan, on the other hand,
I stay away from gift cards now.
After Go Public contacted Walmart Canada and Shoppers Drug Mart, they said they compensated Martin and Joan for their lost funds. Both companies say they train their employees to spot the telltale signs of gift card tampering. But consumers should also pay close attention to avoid the unintended gift of fraud. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, call it the calm before the storm across the province. We've got some active weather on the way. In advance of that, as you see there out of our tower cam in Regina, it is cloudy. And yes, there is possibly some rain and snow on the way for us. We take a look at our radar and satellite shot, and you can see those clouds that have been building in throughout the last 24 hours or so, and little patches of snow, and radar is picking those up as rain in some portions of the province, especially in the south as well. But it's northern Saskatchewan where we have our eyes tuned to, because that's where we have a snowfall warning in effect through much of the Churchill region, including Buffalo Narrows, La Ronge, Pelican Narrows, Cumberland House. And here is how things are going to be playing out. So the first little wave of this system actually comes as we head late into Wednesday, very early Thursday morning, particularly in southeastern Saskatchewan. We are looking for the possibility of some freezing rain there. You see the models kind of picking up a mixed precipitation sort of formation there as we get into the early morning hours Thursday. Then by midday, that's where that band of heavy snow moves in from Alberta through central and northern Saskatchewan. And in portions of western Saskatchewan and the southwestern and west central areas, that could be changing to rain at times, including in the Saskatoon area. But again, the northern grain belt, the Churchill region, very heavy snow moving through the rest of the day Thursday. For Regina and the southeast, we get another messy mix as we head into very early Friday morning. And then that changes over to snow, and another band of that starts moving in for Friday afternoon for the Parkland region and for the southeast corner. After that, things getting a bit quieter, and we start to see clouds clear away as we get into the weekend, at least for the southern half of the province. So in terms of snowfall totals, I think this is the model that gives us sort of the best estimate of what we can expect. And again, right through that snowfall warning area, maybe locally upwards of 25 centimeters in the Buffalo Narrows area. But just because you're outside of the warning there in places like Meadow Lake doesn't mean that you won't be getting some substantial snowfall. For south and central, again, it's not a really big event for us. For Saskatoon, maybe a centimeter or two. That next band that moves through Regina in the southeast as we get into Friday will bring maybe 2 to 4 centimeters at most. Rainfall model here again, what you see moving through the north there is mostly snowfall. It's just being picked up as rain here, but maybe a couple of millimeters of rain through south and central as the system rolls through as well. Winds are going to pick up a little bit with this too, even as early as Thursday morning, seeing those 40 gusting 50, and then even stronger than that as we head through Thursday afternoon. They'll stay gusty as we head toward the weekend. So for Regina, looking like this, I'm going to call it 1 to 3 centimeters for Friday before we get those breezes on Saturday. And of course, temperatures dropping as well. So that's going to make things feel quite a bit colder on Saturday for us. In Saskatoon, again, kind of hit and miss here if we're going to see the snow or the rain, but not too much accumulation. Windy for Friday with some morning flurries, and then things clearing out with cold conditions for Saturday as we get some snow flurries for Sunday and Monday as temperatures return closer to seasonal. Well, 3 years ago, a Saskatchewan woman from Cody First Nation decided to relearn the Saulteaux language she knew as a child. Now she's trying to teach others the language in the hopes of revitalizing. Darla Panes has more.
Natalie Langen was raised by her paternal grandmother in a fluent Saulteaux home on Fishing Lake First Nation. Saulteaux was the only language her grandmother spoke, but when her grandmother died nearly 20 years ago, things changed.
When she passed away, I feel like my language went along with her because I had nobody to speak the language with anymore.
In 2022, Langen started working to relearn Saulteaux by taking classes from Lorena Lynn Cody at the First Nations University of Canada. She says the process was inspiring.
Not only was I learning how to speak the language, relearning to speak the language, but I also really wanted to teach what I was relearning.
Langen started offering online Saulteaux classes to Cody First Nation members. 18-year-old Padme James and her 16-year-old sister, Buru James, took the online class. The siblings are originally from Cody First Nation, but now live in San Francisco with their family.
It's a beautiful experience. Natalie is a great teacher. I am very grateful to be taking this class. I love learning my language and reconnecting with all those people who came before me and members of the Cody First Nation.
I think it's beautiful that now after school, I can take this class and I could say, "Ani nimesumes," hi, my grandfather. And I can talk to my family like, "Ne papa kiza I love you, my dad." I could speak these things in my native language.
Langen says she hopes people who are interested in learning or relearning their language will give it a try.
Don't be afraid, because I believe if I can relearn my language after not speaking it for nearly 20 years, then I believe that anybody can learn it.
Langen says her goal is to make Saulteaux language resources more accessible for anyone who wants to learn the language through online resources and a podcast. Darla Panes, CBC News, Regina.
A medical pilot project is underway in Switzerland to combat chronic illness and depression with visits to a museum, other history exhibits, or public gardens. The patients get a prescription for free admission. Proponents say the trips offer a chance to forget about sickness, worry, and pain. The idea came from a 2019 study on arts and health and experiences during pandemic lockdowns. Stay with us. We'll have more news for you after the break. The evidence has been presented at the trial of a former private Christian school director in Saskatoon. John Olabobokun is charged with 9 counts of assault with a weapon. Olabobokun is accused of hitting students with a wooden paddle. The alleged incidents took place 20 years ago at the former Legacy Christian Academy. The Crown was ready on Wednesday to make closing arguments, but defense lawyer Ron Piche has asked for more time to prepare.
There's a number of what we see as contradictions in the evidence in the case of the Crown, and we do have the benefit of the transcripts. So in order to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, if you will, it will take some time. There's also other legal issues, not a lot of them, but one of them has to do with corporal punishment, which is still on the books.
The trial began with the student's testimony last summer, then continued this week with defense evidence. Olabobokun denies ever hitting the students. The lawyers will make their closing arguments on May 2nd. A man accused of planting GPS trackers on people's vehicles in Saskatoon is facing 34 new charges. Police say 46-year-old Marty Shira now faces a total of 70 charges. Police say they believe there are now 17 victims who had trackers unknowingly placed on their vehicles by Shira. The devices were found underneath the vehicles inside the rear fender wall near the tire. Police say some of the victims didn't even know Shira. He's facing charges that include harassment, intimidation, and mischief. Police say more charges are expected, and people in Saskatoon should keep checking their vehicles. Well, things staying cloudy for the most part through south and central as we head into Thursday. And again, southeastern Saskatchewan in particular, that's where we're watching for either rain or snow developing in the overnight. This is the calm before the snowfall in the Churchill region overnight with lows near -20, clearing up north where we see those lows closer to -30. Here's how things are playing out snow-wise as we get into Thursday. Again, the first little bit of that moving in to western sections of the Churchill region by the noon hour, and then moving in more substantially by about 4 o'clock. For south and central, again, we get that snow moving through portions of the northern grain belt by the noon hour, and possibly some rain along the western side of the province in southwestern and west central areas as that snow makes its way through northern sections by the afternoon. And that is it for us. For more news anytime, you can always head to our website or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. You can also download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching.